Welcome back, guys. We're going to do a quick video for you on what sun scalding looks like and what heat damage looks like. Now, there is a difference. Heat damage is caused by excessive heat and high humidity, and sun scalding is caused by the burning of the sunlight because it's just so bright. The UV rays are coming down really strong, and so you end up with what's known as sun scalding. Now, I'm just going to show it to you on the plants. I'm not going to show it to you on the fruits because we don't have fruits yet, but I'll show you some plants that have both on it. So let's turn you around and show you what that looks like. So let's see here. Come into my garden. Take a look. Okay. All right, so right out the gate, I see some sun scalding right out the gate. So let's show you, like, for example. You see that? That's from burning from the brightness of the sun. Not just the heat, but the brightness itself. It's like a white, pale color. And you'll see that on quite a few plants. Just show you really quickly. Now, this is all from direct sunlight, right? Now, these plants were growing in the greenhouse, and I brought them out. I had no choice. I got to get my plants planted. I can't wait, you know, all the way to mid to late July for me to try to harden them off from the greenhouse. It just, the plants got to get planted. If they get scalded, they get scalded. Here's another look. They'll recover from this. Okay, you see that? That's called sun scalding. Now, you can see a lot of these plants will have this. Sun scalding. There's some sun scalding there. A little bit on the lower part of the leaf. And when you water your plants in direct sunlight, it magnifies it, so it makes it actually worse. So it's a good idea not to let the water get burned by this direct sunlight, if at all possible. So hopefully, like, this is all morning dew and rain and stuff, so hopefully that dries off before the full hardcore part of the sun comes out. It usually does. So that's what sun scalding looks like. Now let's show you what heat damage looks like. Big difference. I don't know if I have too much of it that's going to be the way I want to present it to you, but for example, you see in here, this is in the greenhouse now. We have panels up here. These panels have a coating on it that protects us from the UVC, damaging rays of the sun, and all that good stuff. What you're looking at here is heat damage. Heat damage is caused by high heat and high humidity. It's called a heat index. And when plants are hit with this high heat index, they can't breathe anymore. They can't respirate or transpirate. And you're watering the soil. So now the plant is drowning, and then at the next point up here, the plant can't do anything with it, can't transpirate or respirate, and it's suffocating to death, so it gets the leaves die on it. Your fruits could also drop off too, your flowers could drop. Give you a quick look. It's usually it turns black. I'll try to show you what it looks like. They're very black. That's just one example of heat damage in the greenhouse. The greenhouse can get literally to 140 degrees roughly. I've had that thermometer tacked already at 140. So look for some more damage. Now you may not see too much more in here. Now here on this particular plant, this doesn't have heat damage as a result of the high heat, high humidity, but this plant is suffering a little bit from edema, which is a similar problem with high temperature, not enough airflow, and too much moisture can cause this problem. And you'll see it's got like all these little bumps on it. That's not an insect damage, that's called edema. So that we're not looking at that. What we want to show you is what heat damage looks like. Some of these other plants out here are subject to the heat damage just as much, as well as sun scalding and everything else, but usually weeds don't usually get affected. But this is called jewel weed, and this plant was getting affected pretty harshly from heat damage. So this is a result of high heat, high humidity. That's also heat damage on the jewel weed. Let's see if we can find you another one. There's some more. This is what it looks like. It turns black. It turns black, folks. Here's some real bad heat damage. Now you'll notice when you get heat damage, the whole top of this plant has basically died right off because of the high heat, high humidity. We had high heat and high humidity probably somewhere around, I think somewhere around 96%, something like that. Let's show you in here something. This is also a result of the heat damage. You'll see the wilting here. Don't cut the plant. Don't panic. It's not wilt disease or any of that. This is damage that you see that can last for a few days, and it'll recover. It'll actually come back, most of it. Some of the leaves may continue to burn off, like up here. Some of these might continue to burn off, and some of these will just kind of go back to normal. But this whole stem leaning down and kind of wilting out like that, this is all a result of high heat and high humidity. That's what you're seeing here. And you're going to see this quite a bit when the sun comes out. No, it's not Fusarium, it's not Verticillium, it's not bacterial wilt disease. It's just simply responding to high heat and high humidity. And then you have to, of course, if you throw the high sunlight in there, it makes it even worse. Let me see if I get to show you what it looks like on the tomato. Take a quick look over here. I don't know if it happens. My planted tomatoes really took the heat really good. The ones in the pails, though, on the other hand, they got a little bit of heat damage. So I may have to pause the video here and then reactivate the video towards the end so I can show you what it looks like on my tomato plants. Now, the back here took it pretty good, believe it or not. And the sun scalding you're seeing out there is because these plants are refreshed. They were all planted during the monsoon season, where we didn't see sunlight for like 3 weeks. Yeah, that's why they got burned, because they just never seen sunlight before, and then I put them out and they got burned. But you can see none of the tops of my plants out here that are planted are showing any signs of heat damage. So I have to go up front to show you what my tomato plants will look like with the heat damage. So we'll be right back. Come here. No, that's just a little blight. Be right back. Okay, so you're probably asking, so what do you do about heat damage now that we know what it is? And how do you deal with sun scalding? Well, sun scalding is just sometimes, even though your plants are all hardened off, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sun scalding just happens. When the sun is really bright and harsh, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just going to burn all the leaves on your plants anyway. So it's not a matter of hardening off. Yes, you can get sun scald by bringing your plants out too early without hardening them off. Yeah, it's a good way to burn your plants down and cause them to stunt because they lost all their foliage. The thing about sun scalding is it either happens or it don't. One of the things I could say to avoid doing with sun scalding specifically is try not to water your plants during the middle of the day and get the leaves wet. If you're going to water them at the base and stay off the leaf. Especially with like pepper plants like this. Stay away from the leaf, just keep the ground nice and moist, but don't over moisten the ground. This is part of the problem of why the leaves are burning. You're over watering. The plant is soaking up so much water, it can't transpirate. It goes through like an edema process, and then the leaf dies of suffocation. And so this is a common thing that happens in these hot weathers. As long as if the plant's got moisture, it's going to wilt. Don't overwater it. Just give it a good watering in the morning and a good watering at night, and only at the base and not on the leaves, especially tomatoes. So as far as dealing with the sun scalding, there's not a lot you could do. Just try not to get the leaves wet, and if you can, you're going to have morning dew and everything, but try not to get them wet. Just water the base of the plant. Don't overwater it, and you should be good. Now, as far as the heat damage goes, from high heat, high humidity, which we call heat index, my heat index around here, again, was probably between 94 and 98 at some point. I mean, it was almost 100% humidity. In fact, it was so humid that not only we get morning fog here that literally covers this entire thing, you can't even see out your door, but sometimes the humidity gets so bad here that my basement floor, it literally is like a river that runs almost all day long. Water just starts appearing on the floor and just starts running towards the drain. There's that much water in the air. So the humidity here was exceptionally high in order to cause the damage that you're seeing here. Okay, you see that damage? In order for you to get that, the humidity has to be ungodly high. And the heat temperatures were obviously very high. They were in the hundreds. So again, these high humidity levels is what really causes the damage. The plants, the tomato plants that are in the ground that are planted, they don't seem to be affected too much by it. However, they were definitely wilting out a little bit here and there. But the ones in the pail that I'll show you up at the top, those up there, those really took a kind of a beating, to be honest with you. They started really showing signs of wilting. So I'm not sure if it's because of the steady supply of water and it can't transpirate or respirate, so it starts drowning and starts killing the leaf. I don't know. But it didn't really do it to my tomato plants out here. They took it good. These plants out here, they took it pretty good. And so how do you avoid that? Well, definitely don't wet the leaves, because if you soak the leaves, it can't breathe. That'd be like, for example, like me taking your head and shoving it in the stream and you can't breathe. Right. That's kind of what happens when you wet all of the plant leaves, thinking that you're cooling the plant off, and what you're doing is drowning the plant even more. The plant cools itself by transpiration and respiration. It's not going to cool itself by you wetting the leaf off. It's not like a human body. Human bodies perspire. So when you perspire, you evaporate the perspiration, and this is what gives you a cooling effect. With plants, it kind of does the same thing, but it's a different kind of a process. Once you get the plant too soaked and wet, and it's drowning on the surface because it's all the leaves are wet and you're in 105-degree heat, you start ending up with heat damage, or you increase the potentiality of that heat damage when you have high heat index. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is making sense, but that's basically what I'm saying is, if you want to avoid heat damage on your plants, just simply don't get the leaves wet on any of your plants, especially tomatoes, because tomatoes are known, they're water soppers. These things love to soak water up, bring it right up the stem like a straw, and then emit that moisture into the air. It's the way these plants grow. That's why your tomato plants can grow like a foot in a day, maybe a foot and a half in one day. My plants could go from all the way on the ground to being up through those wires on the tops of them fences. You know, there's like wire on the top. It can do that in about 2 days, 3 days. That's how fast they grow, because the water, this ground is very moist and they get a lot of water, they grow. So as a result of that, when you get high heat, high humidity, tomato plants really take it really bad. Jewelweed's also another plant that works like a sponge, almost like a straw. If you look at the inside of the stems on these, if I could break one off, you can see it's almost hollow. It's like a straw. These plants will grow from the ground to this big in days. And what the problem is with these plants is the heat. If they can't transpirate, they don't like sunlight. You can see this plant basically died. It's not diseased. It's a result of high heat, high humidity. Another one, a result of high heat, high humidity. Sometimes it gets one of the plants, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know exactly why that happens. I just know it does. So, outside of that, really the only thing you do, the best thing you can do is just water your plants in the morning and at night. Try to stay away from watering during the day. You don't need to water anything that's planted in the ground. You give them a good watering in the morning and a good watering at night, and your plants are going to pull through just like these very nicely. So final thoughts is basically, if you're seeing your plants wilting, okay, you start to see all this necrosis and you see it rotting and dying out, just don't panic. A lot of people, when they see this, they panic. They start pulling their plants up because they think they got fusarium or a disease. Don't do that. This is pure heat damage. This, like I said, even though it's wilty, believe it or not, these can recover to about 90. When they're wilty like this and they stay like this for a couple days, they sometimes never fully come out of it. But they'll come, sometimes they fully come out of it, but sometimes they'll leave like 90% of it will come to normal, and then some of it will just be burned off all on the edges. it'll just be burned up in a lot of places. So let the plant cool, let it finish its cycle, let it heal itself, and when the time comes and it gets bigger, you can just remove the leaves. Don't do anything yet. Just leave the plant alone. It went through a lot of stuff. Don't go cutting anything, and just give it a chance to recover. All right, guys? If you have any questions, comment below. I'll do the best I can to answer those. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.